Alright, hey everybody, it's Evan here from devsun.com, and in this video we're going to go over the Listbox component inside of Headless UI. If you haven't seen my other Headless UI tutorials, you should go check those out because we're going to be using one of those components inside of this component later on at the end of the video. Now before we start, if you have any questions, feel free to leave them in the comments down below, or you could join the devsun Discord server and I'm sure someone will be able to help you out there. And of course, as always, all the code will be up on GitHub, the link in the description. So that way, if you want to copy any Tailwind classes, you can go and do that. But anyway, let's get started. So I just have our index.js file here. I'm going to import the useState hook from React. Now I'm going to import Listbox from Headless UI. And lastly, I'm going to import our container component just to center everything on the screen for us. Again, all this component is just a simple wrapper to center everything on the screen. And now going back to our index.js, I'm going to create an array. I'm going to call the array fruits, and here we're going to hold a couple of different fruits. And basically these fruits are going to be the options we can pick from in our list box. Now let's go ahead and create a state variable for our fruit. And this is where we're going to store what fruit we select in our list box. And we're going to use this function to set the fruit that we click on in our list box. Now I'm going to go ahead and return some JSX. Inside our container, I'm going to add the list box component. And now there's a couple props that we want to add to this. The first is going to be as. We're going to set this as a div. And all the as prop does is set this component to the HTML element that we define here. In this case, it's a div. Our next prop is going to be value. And we're going to set it to our selected fruit state up here. And lastly, it's going to be our onChange prop, which is going to set our selected fruit when we click on it. All right, so within our listbox component, I'm going to use a render prop here called open. And inside here, we're going to return a React fragment. Inside our React fragment, we're going to now create our listbox label. I'm going to call this favorite fruit. Then I'm going to add some styling real quick. Obviously, we're using Tailwind for this. Next thing we're going to do is create a div with relative positioning. Inside this div, I'm just going to create a span. I'm going to set this span to be inline block with a full 100% width. And now within here, we're going to create our listbox button. And then I'm just going to add a span inside this button here. And inside the span, we're going to insert our selected fruit variable up here. And now I'm just going to add some Tailwind styling to our button here. Again, you can copy all of this in the GitHub link in the description down below if you want the same exact styling as I do. And I'm also going to add some styling to our span. And now below here, we're going to have our listbox options. And this is where we're going to display our list of fruit. So let's go ahead and add that component. And now we're actually going to map our fruits array. So I'm going to say fruits.map. And then in here, for each fruit, we're going to return a listbox.option. The key is going to be fruit, and the value is also going to be fruit. Now within our listbox option, we're also going to use two render props here. One is selected and the other one is active. So let's go ahead and create those. And this is going to return a div. Inside our div, we're going to add a span, and here's where we're going to put our fruit label. Now let's go ahead and add some class styling to this. And now here's where we're going to check if active is true or false. So if active is currently true, we're going to have the text be white and the background be an indigo color. Otherwise, if it's not active, we're just going to have the text set to gray. I'm also going to add some other styling things just to make everything look nice, like so. We're also going to add a class to our span. And now here, we're going to check if selected is true or false. So if our selected fruit is currently the fruit in our array that we're mapping here, we're going to set the font to be semi-bold. Otherwise, the font weight will just be normal. That way, in our list box, we'll know which fruit is currently selected in our list. I'm just going to format this so it's easier to see. And now below our span that we just created, let's go ahead and add a check for selected. So here we're saying if selected is true, then we're going to return this span as well. Inside this span, we're going to add a SVG, which is basically just a check mark. I'm going to go ahead and add some styling to this. So once again, we're going to check if active is true or false. If this div is currently active, we're going to set the text to white. Otherwise, the text is going to be set to text indigo 600. And now I'm just going to add some additional styling here, like so. And to make sure the SVG actually shows up, we're going to have it set to a height of 5 and a width of 5 in the class name here. And if you want to find where this SVG is at, you can go to heroicons.com. There's a ton of different icons that you can use. I just picked the one with a circle that has a check mark in it. I have a link for the hero icons in the description down below. Now, before we actually go to the browser, I made a little mistake. I accidentally capitalized box and Listbox a couple places here. So I'm going to go ahead and fix that right now using Control H in Visual Studio Code. Also make sure my import is correct as well. And I also forgot to add in some styling for our Listbox options. So I'm going to go ahead and add that real quick, like so. All right, and now if we go to our browser, we're going to see our Listbox component here. It's currently set to Apple. Let's go ahead and click on this. And now we're going to see all of our fruit options. If we hover over each one of these, you can see the styling change. Let's go ahead and click on orange. We're going to see now that it's set to orange. And when we look at it in our list, we're going to see the check mark circle. If I click on lime, it's going to change to lime. However, one thing to notice is that when I open and close this, there's no smooth transition. But luckily for us, within Headless UI, there's actually a transition component that allows us to easily add in transitions when we open and close our Listbox here. So let's go ahead and add that right now. So I'm actually going to surround our Listbox options component here, and I'm actually going to wrap that with a transition component from Headless UI. So make sure you have that imported at the top here as well. And now you just want to make sure that your Listbox options component is the child of your transition component here. So you might have been wondering, what are we going to use our open render prop for? Well, we're actually going to use it for our transition. So the transition has a show prop, and here is where we're going to pass in our open render prop here. And now we're also going to want to add in some animation props. So here we have 3 animation props here. We have leave, and this is for the overall leaving animation. Basically, we're setting it to ease in and having it set to duration 100 using the Tailwind classes. It's going to leave from 100% opacity, and it's going to leave to 0% opacity. Again, I have a whole video on transitions if you want to go check that out. And so now if we go to our browser and we open and close this, we're going to notice that we still don't see our transition. And that is because the Listbox has a functionality to auto open and close the Listbox options. So it is being hidden before we can actually see our transition. So let's go ahead and add a prop to Listbox options called static. And what static does is it basically keeps Listbox options open all the time. Now you might be thinking, well, that's not what we want. But it is actually what we want, because our transition component is handling the opening and closing of our Listbox options here with our show prop, because open is going to be true or false depending on when we click our Listbox button. So if we click on our Listbox button, it's going to change open to true. Show is going to be set to true, which means we are going to show our Listbox. So transition is actually going to be handling that for us. So let's go back to our browser. I'm going to open this up. And now watch, when I close it, you're going to see how it fades out like so. And that is pretty much going to do it for this video. Again, I'm going to have all the source code down in the description. I'm also going to have the full Headless UI documentation in the description down below as well. If you found this video helpful, please leave a like. It helps out the channel. Also subscribe if you want more content like this. If you want any help further, you can join our DevAscend Discord server, and either myself or someone else will be able to help you out there. Anyway, that's going to do it for this video. Thank you guys for watching, and I'll see you in the next video.